Good afternoon, welcome to Market Wrap number 209. This week we're focusing on the UK housing crisis and the political party plans for dealing with that. So, what's it all about? Basically, the housing crisis is one of the top 4 features that most people, according to YouGov, are worrying about in the UK. The others being immigration, the economy, and the general catharsis that is embracing the UK. So that's the 4 major areas. The housing crisis is a significant issue because it affects nearly 11 million people in the UK. A third of the population rents in the UK, which is interesting because we're at the lowest point of home ownership since Margaret Thatcher, and we have the lowest level of home ownership in the UK in Europe. So it is not just a UK problem. It appears to be that we have a problem that is, in comparison to others, very, very poor. So the different political parties have been putting out their strategies as to what they're going to do to deal with it. Now, the important point to bear in mind is that the Conservatives have been in power for the last 14 years, and what have they done about it? They're now saying they're going to change. It's a bit like, a marriage. You suddenly find 14 years in that it's not going very well, but I'll change. And people find it very hard to change, and I find it hard to believe the Conservatives will be able to do that. But they have put across a package what they expect to do. They're focusing on demand side focus, so more on what can we do to stimulate people buying. And their sort of concepts are a 1% mortgage. And Rishi Sunak has been very clear about this. He says it's not a fact that people can't afford to save. They can afford to save, but they can't afford to save well enough to get a deposit. So it's the deposit that's holding them back. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But the point is, he's going to point at 1% mortgages to get more people on the housing ladder. He's going to build 1 million new homes over the next 5 years by the end of the next election. He's been promising to do that sort of thing all along. Simplified planning process, so make it easier for people to get planning to build homes, because it is very contorted, is that the right word? It's certainly very difficult at the moment. And then basically get put through the rental reform bill, which will enhance tenants' rights and make it better for tenants for renting. Okay, he's going to get rid of the no-fault evictions, so Section 21 will disappear. And he's going to do leasehold reforms to make things better, ban sales of new leasehold, get rid of ground rent, those sort of things, because they do stop people buying property. Because I experience it, people say to me, I don't want a flat because it's got too many charges. You've got ground rent. Well, ground rent's gone now, it's now peppercorn. But you do have the service fees, so they need to be controlled a lot better. So basically redress those sort of issues that are holding people back from buying in that sort of area. Now the Labour Party on the other side are looking at supply side issues. Okay, so get rid of planning restrictions, set a home ownership target, and our home ownership target is 70%. At the height of the Margaret Thatcher period, 80% of people own their own homes. Now a lot of that was selling off social housing, which is actually a poor thing to do, but 70% is their target, so it's more of a supply approach. They're talking about having regional wages linked to house prices. So if you're only earning, the UK average wage I think it's £32,000. So if you're only earning £32,000, what should your house price be? Whereas if you're in London, well, let's say Reading for example, average wage is £72,000. So therefore they're saying, well, house prices should be allowed to be double in Reading than they are in other locations. That's the sort of concept. I can't really get a grip on it, how it would work, but that's what he's looking at. He's talking about supporting renters, eliminating discriminatory immigration checks by landlords. Apparently if you are an immigrant, then landlords can turn you down. There's a Labour Party affiliate report that just come out, and they're suggesting a holistic housing approach, which is looking at all issues, not just let's make them cheaper so people can buy them, or let's make it easier for them to buy them. Let's look at the whole issue of what holistic approach is. The National Landlords Register, I think, they're talking about creating a register of landlords, and those who aren't good get put on that and blacklisted. They're talking about the same with no-fault evictions, getting rid of that, which is fine. I think the most challenging thing they've got is this rent freeze or rent controls in certain areas. Now, we talked about this last week. They've instigated that in Scotland, but what they haven't done is stopped social housing and council housing being demolished, which has basically then taken away the supply and replaced it by much higher rental stuff. and he might control the rents on those, but it's beside the point because the other part of it has been taken away. So I guess that could be part of their holistic approach. And one of the other things which is another quite difficult topic, is they want to get rid of short-term lets. So Airbnb, that sort of stuff. Now, on the continent, you go to places like Barcelona or Madrid, there's very strong controls over short-term lets because it has affected the environment and it's priced a lot in it. They are very short-term people, they don't care really what goes on. And also it's forced a lot of people out of the city centres because they can't compete with 12% rents. So that's an interesting thing. They've already been talking about second homes, taxing those. They're already starting that, the Welsh government. So these sort of things, and as I said last week, it's a case of if you plug one loophole, you open up another behind it. And so these different ideas that people are coming up with to control stuff, the supply side that the Labour Party is looking at is more Big Brother-ish, and it could have more problems, but they haven't been in power for 14 years. And so therefore their ideas are new and fresh and could be a good idea. Now the Liberal Democrats, they're pretty much a mix of the two. Government-backed deposit loans, 100,000 new homes annually, which is not nearly enough. Local housing allowances, improve the benefits rates and universal credit calculations for people on the socials. Social housing, more of those rent-to-buy schemes. Environmental standards, ensure solar energies in everywhere. Zero carbon standards, those sort of things. So they're very much in the middle ground. So demand side, supply side, which will come out on top? Well, it looks like the Conservatives are going to lose, and therefore we will have a supply side driven market. What does that mean to us as potential landlords, as people investing into the market? There'll be more regulation, for sure. More uncertainty as to what will happen. Maybe rent controls, which is a bad thing. It won't be as positive as it was perhaps 20 years ago, but it hasn't been for some time. From a tenant's perspective, it's likely to benefit from increased security, rent controls, enhanced rights under both parties. Overall, what does it mean? I think really the supply side control, there's a lot of positives there. I mean, the Labour government are saying that they want to take some of the Biden-esque ideas, the Joe Biden stuff, and get more involved in industry and stimulate it where it needs to be stimulated instead of a fully free market economy. They want to invest in things like AI, in solar. They want to create, I think, 600,000 jobs in the renewable energy sector. They want to make people better trained, and therefore if they are better trained, earn more money so they can get onto the housing ladder. So looking at the supply side and a holistic approach does seem to hold a lot of water. It seems to be working in the US and different parts of the continent that are using this more involved approach, which is going very well. So in the bigger picture, we have tried the Conservative Party approach for 14 years. It's not really gone that well. They're now saying, Russia's saying, well, I can change. Well, can they change? And if they can, why haven't they done it already? They should have really. So overall, it looks like we're going to have a supply-focused political party in power, looking at a holistic approach, i.e. stimulating jobs, privatising the railways again, those sort of things. So not privatisation for the majority of it, just actual crucial areas they see it, but more involvement by the government into house building, into where are the industries going to be growing, look at free ports, those sort of things. So that's something to think about when buying. Where is going to benefit most? It's still going to be, the Labour Party said it still wants to decentralise away from London. It wants to give power, devolve power to the regions, make Manchester, Birmingham, those sort of places independent local governments so they can make their own buying and selling decisions, and hopefully that'll stimulate their economies. If that is the case, that helps focus on the Midlands and the North again, which is where we're focusing ourselves. It's very much the benefit of the levelling up agenda, and I think that's still a good place to be investing money, and it's where property prices are still going up. I mean, I've been doing a lot of work on Manchester recently, and I'm amazed that 12 years after the BBC went to Salford Quays, it's still going up in price. There's stuff we've done off plan there that's gone up by 16% over the 20 months that it was being built. Phenomenal. So these are things to consider when you're buying. Hopefully you found that useful. 209. Please do like, subscribe, send questions in. We'd love to answer them. And take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.